Howdy and welcome to Lead to Grow, Part 2, Module 1, and Lesson 3 on Core Values. Jim Collins said, a culture of discipline is not just about action, it's about getting disciplined people who engage in disciplined thought and who then take disciplined action. What he was saying is that when you have disciplined people, people who are intentional and guided by the same core values, you produce superior results. And it starts with people knowing and fervently behaving according to the same core values. Business leaders have learned that what is more important than a powerful strategy, a super product, or the newest technology in an organization for people with the same core values, people who know how to behave as they pursue the organization's purpose, vision, super objectives, or the mission, strategies, tactics, and measurable goals. These organizations substantially outperform all others. Do you want to be a results driven company or a values driven company? What I've learned is that every company has values, even if they haven't even been discovered yet. I've also found that most companies are results driven, not values driven. You know, as you've already heard me say, I want to be a values driven company that achieve results, not a results driven company that has values. John Maxwell said, leadership develops daily, not in a day. What he shares in that, the event encouraged this, an event encouraged decisions, motivates people, is a calendar issue, challenges people, and is easy. However, John also explains that the process encourages development, matures people, is a culture issue, changes people, and is difficult. We tend to overestimate the event and underestimate the process. Events are important and it's easy for us to focus on them, but the secret to winning is found in the process. You know, since champions are always made out of the process, this is why the discovery process of finding your core values is so important. And while core values are essential, not everyone shares the same set of core values. The point is not what core values you have, but that you know what they are, that you acknowledge them, that you, as the leader, build them explicitly into the organization, that you preserve them over time. There is a three-phase process. Phase one, start by reflecting. Phase two, then you go deeper. And phase three is where you obtain breakthrough. You know, it took me 2.5 years to discover my core values, but I didn't have the simple roadmap I'm sharing with you. Personally, I began by simply reflecting on my life, all the way back to when I was a little boy, while I was bicycling or taking long walks, or sitting in my thinking chair, I would ask myself questions like, what do I stand for? What am I all about? In phase two, uh, my antenna was up and I started asking myself deeper questions in the present tense, like, why did I say what I just said? Why was it even important for me to say it that way? Why did I do what I just did? And why was it important for me to do it that way? And even still going further, going deeper with phase two, next I started to reflect on my past by asking questions uh, like who, even from an early age, influenced what I said and did? When did they influence me? Where did they influence me? And how was I affected by these influences? I was beginning to see some characteristics and behaviors in myself that I could trace back to my childhood, such as a thirst for learning, a focus on honesty, a desire to make the right decision regardless of the consequences, a need to lift others up, a determination to always perform to the best of my ability, and a tendency to prioritize people above things, and a desire to positively impact the lives of others. I was making progress, but I still had not fully and completely discovered who I was. Finally, the day came. I don't know how to explain it, but I finally had enough clarity to discover who I was in phase three, which is a breakthrough. However, there is a warning. The warning is, do not skip the process of completing phase one, which is reflection, and phase two, about going deeper, to produce quick results to get to phase three, which is the breakthrough. Why? Because you're likely to end up with core values that are what? Aspirational rather than authentic. In other words, you'll end up with who you want to be rather than who you are, which are the wrong results. In fact, if I was consulting you as the leader, I would not give you the last two questions until you had spent perhaps quite a bit of time and maybe a couple of months thinking on and praying on the first list of questions. And may I say that once you discover your core values as a leader, you'll want to infuse them into your organization. And when you are ready to roll out your core values to your organization, you will want to have an intentional plan, company-wide event. And you would want to use interactive group activities such as table groups to engage in interaction and discussion, and enjoy competitive games designed to allow your people to have fun, learn to work as a team, and discover practical applications. If you're interested, I would be glad to coach you on a rollout of your core values outside of this Lead to Grow course. Down below, you can download the Core Values Discovery Guide, and please use that to discover your core values. Also, down below, you can download the Core Values Validity worksheet to make sure the values you've chosen are real, true, and authentic. Now, leaders are always trying to save time. You may see the use of value cards as a great way to get her done so you can move on to the next burning issue. You know, life is filled with bad decisions that were made with good intentions, but misguided expectations. Some things just take time. Discovering your authentic core values is one of them. Any tool, be it manual or electronic, that presents the value seeker with a lot of great list, a possible sample of values, and ask you to select one or ones that describe you that have certain, it does have certain appeal. However, it is quite difficult to discover your values this way because of our natural inclination to select the values that sound like great values instead of truly discovering the values that reflect what? Who you are. Bone deep. There can be a great big difference between what we aspire to be and who we are. So, this is why I give a second warning. Avoid likely pitfalls to shortcut the journey required to discover your core values. As we conclude lesson 3 on core values, I want to encourage you to write down one or two action steps you want to take this week and enjoy your discovery of your core values.